Hello and welcome to the A&P. I am Alex Johansson and my co-host Patrick McCallum. Patrick,
Hello, everyone. How are you getting on?
we're having logical discussions about the state of the world. Let's get into it, brother. Heyo, what's going on, Patrick?
Not too bad at all, buddy. Not too bad. Oh, what have you to show me today?
Mosab Hassan Yousef. This house believes Israel is an apartheid state responsible for genocide. Now, Mosab Hassan Yousef is a son of the co-founder of Hamas, and he has some opinions.
Heard of him. Yeah, I've heard of him before, actually. Yeah, I've seen clips of him over the last number of years, actually, in different various podcasts and shows.
He's pretty aggressive.
Really interesting. Yeah, really interesting young man.
Well, I generally see him in line with Natasha Hausdorff and Douglas Murray. Like they're like a trifecta, discussing the death of the West and some of the concentric issues involving Israel. So let's let this feller get started, see what he's got to say.
Okay.
Oxford Union.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mosab Hassan Yousef, for those who don't know me, but I think most of you know who I am.
Okay, we're not even 2 seconds in, there's already Hitler. Okay, that's a good start.
I am sentenced by my father to death. He made my blood allowed. Why? Because I reported on suicide bombing attacks that targeted civilians indiscriminately. This is my crime. And guess what? It is not a secret that you discovered. It was my initiative that I revealed myself to public of what I did, because I am not ashamed of saving human lives. You should be ashamed for taking the side of terrorists. Also, I am not going to apologize for reporting Hamas and for reporting terrorists. And know that we will fight anyone who takes the side of terrorists. Hamas is a terrorist organization in the UK, in the United States, in the European Union. And it's not up to you to decide.
It immediately popped a commercial. Wow. Let's get through the commercial. There's something I want to say. So Hamas has been designated So Hamas has been designated as a terrorist organization functionally across all the G7 countries. And it's very strange because UNRWA funnels a lot of money into the Gaza Strip, and they do lots of educational things, and most of their educational things are not good toward the Jewish state at all. There's a lot of videos that are let's do bad things to the Jews. It's not comfortable to look at, to watch, to experience, but they're taught.
But does UNRWA monitor where their money is going to the state? Do they go in and see what way these schools are operating or charities are operating?
They found a lot of UNRWA officials are actually part of the Hamas network, right?
Okay.
And they're also educating the children in the Gaza Strip, right? And a lot of this has to do with UNRWA gets special money for refugees, and the refugees, the Palestinian refugees, are the only refugees in the world to get to hand their refugee status to their children, right? So initially, when someone says that the state of Israel is committing genocide on the Gaza Strip and on the Palestinians, that requires a percentage loss of population that is catastrophic. Except even since October 7th, the population has risen, which means there are more refugees who have been granted that refugee status. There hasn't been a situation. Go ahead.
But I think in the West, when they use the word genocide towards the population, what they're talking about is, I think it's the word they're using to explain the over 50,000 civilian deaths since October 7th, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right, I understand. Okay, so the issue with that is that the death of those who are in Hamas that are not currently wearing a uniform get labeled as civilian deaths, right? You can't take on the uniform and then take the uniform off and then not be a member of a thing, right? So at the end of the day, regardless of what clothes you are wearing, Patrick, you are Irish, right? And if you're a member of the military, even while not on duty, you are a member of the military, right? It doesn't matter if you're wearing the uniform or not. So the statistics are actually published by Hamas to the reporting world, as it were. So we have no idea the legitimacy of those numbers anyway, right? We just don't.
Well, there is UN observers over there from other EU countries that have verified a lot of these numbers. So not just verified them, but physically seen these numbers. So I understand there will be a bit of exaggeration maybe on numbers, but it is a pretty high toll on the civilian population over there at the moment since October 7th.
Right, but of the 50,000, it's been identified that possibly 15 to 18,000 of the deaths are straight civilian deaths, right? But a lot of these deaths occur because Hamas will not let civilians leave certain places, even after Israel has said, we're going to be bombing this place. We're going to be conducting warfare in this spot. They are the most careful. Their civilian to military casualty rate is literally the lowest of any war that has ever occurred on the planet. The lowest. When the Americans went into Mosul, their toll was much higher, and at that time, that was the lowest, right? So Israel is playing a very, very careful, constructed warfare to achieve the limited goals that they're looking for, right?
Yeah, but we all understand. Yeah, I think what the world I think the world in general is trying to grasp with an issue that they don't fully understand. If you understand what,
well, and then,
especially in the especially in Western countries where we're not immediately involved in that area, or we don't relate to that area because we don't understand ancient conflict that is involved in that area. You'll see the snapshot of what's happening now.
There's a lot of nuance involved, but also you don't get to start a war, and then when you get your ass kicked, say you don't want to fight the war anymore. You don't get to do that. That's not how it works. If you pick a fight, well, you're going to stand for the fight. But the issue is that when Hamas started this thing, they had to know that they weren't going to win against the most effective army on the planet. Like, you're not going to win.
Yes, I understand. Yes, so, but you have to remember Hamas also had promises from other Middle Eastern countries that would back them up. But obviously they didn't. But unfortunately, when it comes to these type of conflicts, I think the world usually is on the side, on rightly or wrongly, of the little guy, which is, I would say, a naive way of looking at the world. But a lot of young people, you could say, for instance,
right? But there's one Jewish state and 50 Islamic countries. All of them hate Israel. So in this instance, the Gaza Strip, the Hamas fighters and their leadership and all that, like, they're not the little guy here with all the support from the outside that they're, in quotes, supposedly supposed to be getting, right? Israel is outnumbered 1 billion to whatever. It's an insane amount. Well, millions to one, honestly, right? So, all right, let's get back because this dude's got a lot of good things to say. Let's hear him.
Sit down. Now listen, only Sheikh Hassan Yousef has the authority and the power to pull the trigger. Not you, not him, not her. Only Sheikh Hassan Yousef, if he has the courage to point the gun at his oldest son and pull the trigger. Anyone else who tried to do that will be dealt with differently. Now, how many of you sitting here want to teach me a lesson about morality? If you knew about October 7 attacks, any of you, raise your hands. If you had information about Hamas attack on October 7, would you report it to the authorities? If you do, raise your hand.
Is your hand raised? My hand's real high right now, bud. If I knew that innocent people were going to die, I would probably put myself in the way of it. No, absolutely not. Like, I can't suffer that.
Yeah,
not
definitely.
in good conscience.
Yeah, I think most normal right-thinking people would.
Right,
if I was being
but
honest.
that's not a moral or ethical dilemma for me. If
No,
innocent people are going to be targeted and attacked, killed, raped, murdered, arson, whatever, which is exactly what happened, and they were happy about it. Like, I've seen those videos.
Yeah.
And a lot of those videos, they went up on October 8th, 9th, 10th, and they were disgusting.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were taken down.
We all, the whole world, the whole world saw it. But I think the whole world kind of forgot.
We were chopping off Mr. Yousef's head. We're going to have to drop back down to that right there.
Yeah, there we go.
Better with a full forehead. All right. So let's see how many people raise their hand at the Oxford Union.
Yeah.
Sit down. Less than 5% in this room raised their hands that they would report a massive terrorist attack that targeted civilians indiscriminately. That includes Arabs, Muslim, Jews, Christians, peaceful farming communities on October 7, ethnically cleansing 20 Jewish communities because of their ethnicity and because of their religion. What's happening in Gaza is not the same, because you are the one who's taken the side of terrorists, knowing exactly your role, and you are enjoying it. But at some point, you will have to deal with the consequences, because everything is recorded against you. Now, there come the Palestinians, the most pathetic people on planet Earth.
Whoo!
Oh, wow.
Woo, shots fired. Whoo!
Wow. Okay.
Everybody's up in arms. look, the lady in the white dress has her hand over her mouth like, oh my God, did he just? Whoo!
Yeah. Wow.
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 I forgot about that. I watched this a couple months back, and I was in shock. I was like, "Oh my God!" But when we were talking about the arcs for the show, like the next thing we're gonna do, I remember watching this, and the reaction from the Oxford Union was just like, "Oh my God, he's not pulling any punches. He's not playing."
No, he's definitely not pulling. He definitely came out. Yeah, he came out both barrels.
Bro, these are all heat rounds.
Okay.
These are all heat rounds in the crowd, bud. All right, here we go.
It's just the reaction of the audience when he turned around. He said less than 5% of that audience put their hands up, said they would report.
Dude, I would have been with my hands up. Both hands stood up. Like, if
By the way, it doesn't matter what conflict we're talking about. If you know innocent people are going to lose their lives in any form of attack, you have a moral duty to report it.
You have an obligation to do the right thing.
Who it is. Yeah.
Right. Yes. It is moral and ethically unsound not to do so.
Yes. But
the fact that sickens me.
So many people sitting safely there wouldn't put up their hands, especially in England, when they have gone through the troubles the same as we have in Ireland.
Right.
When they had terrorist attacks on their home soil.
Mm-hmm.
And if they knew these terrorist attacks were going to happen, in England, would they report them then? Would they keep their hands down then? If they knew potentially one of their family members could be in trouble, would they keep their hands down then?
Well, here's the question.
It's very easy to stand in more. It's very easy for people in the safety of Oxford or somewhere like that to keep their hands down when they're in the safety of Oxford. Would they be so easily blind if it was happening on their doorstep?
Right, but the problem with that is they don't understand that in a situation like that, their life could be forfeit as well. They could be the innocent life that is lost.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Or their family members or so on. Yeah.
Right. Or your children. Right. Or your mom or your sister. Right. That's, I mean.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's see how this reaction goes.
Who want Hold
Is out of order.
Sit down.
The speaker is out of order. If the speaker order, when the chair is making a ruling, the speaker must remain seated. If the speaker repeats this again, I will have to ask to leave.
They want to delegitimize someone who's born in that land.
A point of order has been raised. It is directed to the chair. A point of order has been raised. I have to hear the point of order. I have to hear the point of order.
Sit down.
Could I hear the point of order from the member? Order.
Sit down.
Order. It is not for you to tell a member to sit down.
Did you hear that?
Huh.
He said he was
Yeah.
personally had his feeling hurt. Personally. So what happened is this feller used some words and the other feller got his chonies in a bunch, and now he's going to stand up and talk about how he was personally had his feeler hurt.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Point of order is directed to the chair.
Sit down.
Order. 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 Could I hear the point of order from the member for Senate Hall?
Then get out.
Order.
Okay.
That's
Get
the
out.
right answer. You know
You're
what
insulted.
happens immediately after you get offended? Are you ready for this, Patrick? Nothing. Nothing happens. You've decided
Okay.
to be weak.
Just get out. If
Yeah,
your
leave.
feelings are hurt, you don't.
Yeah.
And you're feeling you've been personally attacked, just leave.
Yeah, and then write a strongly worded letter to the Oxford Union and tell them about your feelings. Include a
Yes.
hurt feelings report in there so they know exactly how you were a bitch on that day at that time and had to fucking squawk and make some noise to be personally recognized, which is bullshit too. This is just a speed bump.
Yeah.
You're just slowing this guy down. Let this man talk,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, that's personal.
And insulted many Palestinians, and I asked him to be escorted out of the chamber in the same manner that a fellow student was escorted out of the chamber when she was alleged to have insulted.
In just the last 7 days, 8,368 men have clicked the link on one of our ads that you've probably seen on the internet.
Order. Order.
Oh, look at him in his nice North Face jacket and everything. Just
Yes.
getting all the benefits of being in a G7 country. Look at that. And he was personally offended by his ability to go
Yes.
out and buy anything that the logistics of his country has provided him the opportunity to buy, which he
Yes.
couldn't buy
Yeah.
in Gaza or any Islamic country at all. It just wouldn't
Yeah.
happen. So how about we speak from privilege
if
and
you-
talk about our feelings?
But
That's-
if you feel, if you feel
bullshit.
so strongly, yeah.
yeah, go there.
But
Be
it
there.
is very okay. I understand this this young man who's obviously in his jacket there,
He's
saying he's
attention
personally
seeking.
offended.
I understand.
But I understand. Okay, he's personally, but he identifies as a Palestinian living in Britain, but not as a Palestinian living in the Gaza Strip,
Right.
where the speaker is from that area.
Yeah, and his father
Yes, they're
was
both Palestinians.
yeah.
Yeah, they're both Palestinians, but one is raised in a Western country and one was raised in the Gaza Strip. But
Right.
the Palestinian who's raised in a Western country, is going to tell the person who's raised in the Gaza Strip what is like to be a Palestinian.
Well, before 1948, the
Yeah.
Jews, the Arabs, the Druze, everybody who lived in that area was Palestinian because they were part of the British Mandate, right?
Yes.
So when Israel was created and then immediately attacked by a lot of Islamic countries, right? And they stood
Yep.
their ground and they kept their piece of property, and the Jewish state was then further developed from there until again in 1967 when a bunch of knuckleheads were like, "We're going to go get you." 7 Days War. Oops, you didn't win that one
yeah,
either.
they didn't walk out too well. Actually,
Yeah.
one of the generals in the Israeli army was actually Irish.
Oh, that's awesome. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
We're going to get
Yeah,
into that at
but-
some point too. I want to know about
Yeah,
this guy.
we will. Not a general, sorry, a colonel in the
Okay.
Israeli Defense
In
Force.
charge of a brigade of,
Yeah.
of troops. That's pretty amazing.
He was. Yeah, I'll send you on the link. Actually, yeah, amazing
Hell yeah.
story. Actually,
I love
amazing
it.
story. Yeah.
So, but in 1948, when Israel became a state and they got their own passports, then they were Israelis, right?
Yep.
But the weird thing is until 48, while that was a British mandate from when the League formed that space as being under the British mandate, they were all Palestinians. which is again a term created by the Romans, which was not a nice term to be labeled as a Palestinian.
Yes.
It was, yeah, it was a slur, right? But the Palestinian people have always been under another entity, the Ottoman Empire, whoever happened
they've
to be.
always been,
So
the empire at the time, as they said.
Right. They've had no kings. They've had no currency. They've had nothing to identify them as a nation. And they were kind of a nation under the League during the Mandate period until 1948 when they were formed up. I think Afghanistan or Pakistan was also formed at the same time, but nobody's having any issues with that, right? I mean, India was a little unhappy about that because you just took a chunk of their land and said, nope, it's now Pakistan. And you're like, why? But nobody's like, Pakistan can't be a country, but they're like, but Israel can't. What the hell?
A lot of people, what people feel about that partition of India and Pakistan at that time. A lot of people died there too.
Oh yeah, it's really not good. And the Chinese and India are having a little conflict up there. Anyway, let's get back to this because
they've always had a little tit for tat thing. It's not really conflict as such.
It's been a trifle aggressive out there.
It's a bit of a bitching session between both those nations.
Right?
It's a very funny conflict when you see Indian soldiers and Chinese soldiers facing off, and they're not really they are facing off, but it's kind of more.
It's like slap and tickle.
Angry
it's like slap and tickle.
Yeah, pretty much.
Indians don't have the logistics to get up there effectively, and the Chinese built a bunch of roads through there to get up there to help maintain control. Yeah, the map is real awkward right now up there because China's like,
it is very awkward. And India sends up a token force every now and again. It's kind of like, look, if you want it that badly, look, do whatever you want to do up there. We're not going to really.
Well, it's the bigger issue is a water problem. It's a water problem, like trying to get get water places, and but the Indians understand that part. I think the Chinese are up there because of the sheer stubbornness of China. To be honest. Well, no, the Chinese want the water as well. They've built a ton of dams, like some of the biggest dams on the planet up there to block it out, and it means that India doesn't get water they're supposed to get because it gets redirected toward the Chinese.
Yeah, it's a whole mess.
It's not good. All right, let's get back to Mr. Yousef.
Okay.
If this is repeated again, I'll have to ask the speaker to leave. The speaker was out of order. Please continue.
What? This house has been hijacked by Muslims.
Could I hear the point of order? Could I hear the point of order? Order. Could I hear the point of order? Please have a seat. The point of order is behind you.
What order?
Could I hear the point of order from the member? Could I hear the point of order? Order. Could I hear the point of order? Please state your point of order. Order.
Have you ever noticed that they just won't let people talk?
No reference to anyone in this chamber.
It's not that one that people talk. It's very hard to get a microphone.
To debate, given how important his voice is in this conversation.
Order. I've made my ruling very clear.
Yeah, his voice is very important if you want to have a conversation.
I did not insult anyone in the room.
Order. Could I hear the point of order?
Given that this speaker, who once invited by this union, was then attempts being made to prevent him from coming here to speak, and now we have seen that committed again in the course of this speaker speaking. He has a right to freedom of speech. He has a right to speak in this chamber.
Do you know who that is?
That's the young lady we'll be doing next, by the way.
Yeah, that's Natasha Hausdorff. She talks about blood libel and a lot. Yeah, she's next. We're going to get to her next. But she's the one. She's a barrister in the UK, and she is one of the most brilliant minds that I have ever seen. She is amazing.
Oh yeah, really, really. Especially, I was going to say for a young lady of her age. I forget she's in her 30s. Kind of shows our age as well, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness! Anyway, I think that this blocking of voices of sounds you don't want to hear. That's why I love the First Amendment in the United States. It's not created to protect the voice you want to hear. It's to protect the voice that you don't want to hear. Hearing things that are nice all the time is great, but it doesn't purport with reality. And if you don't purport with reality,
but I do like that.
Go ahead.
But I do like the way the Oxford debates do. The way they are structured is really well. for the most part, very well done. They always try to have both sides of any argument,
Right.
rightly
Well,
or
but the thing
wrongly.
is the kid in the North Face jacket was acting in bad faith. He's a bad faith actor, right? For you to take personal umbrage at something, much like Dolores Umbridge, thank you very much. Harry Potter fans out there, I see you. So she was crazy, but I think that dude pulled a Dolores Umbridge right there. Like, my feelings are more important than a massive concept that needs to be interacted with and manipulated so we can get better answers to provide better solutions to protect the innocent. That's very important. But what that dude did is just stood up and shit on the whole concept. He acted in bad faith. He just did. So
yeah,
it riled everybody up, and now everybody's all up in arms, excited. Their stress levels
yeah.
are up.
And everyone will buy him, and everyone will buy him a few pints after as well.
I don't think he drinks, dude.
You know, that kind of.
I don't think he drinks.
I'd
buy him 3 pints. I'd be like, hey, bud, how much is a pint near you? I'll send you that plus $20 for gas. All right, here we go.
As an invited guest of this union, to order him out as a result of the opinion he has expressed on his own people brings this union into disrepute. It is a moment of
I have heard your point of order. I have made my ruling very clear. Could the Speaker please proceed without making any disparaging references to any population? Please continue.
Yeah.
They want to delegitimize my right to exist because I oppose their violent ideology. Then they want to cry day and night of a victim. Please sit down.
I have to hear the point of order.
Insulting Zionists, Israelis. Israel being
Order. I've heard the point of order. You have seen a member being asked to leave the chamber before on a different side of the chamber. I have made sure that people from both sides of the chamber are allowed to make their speeches and that they're allowed to be heard. Could I please allow the Speaker to finish without any further points of order?
Okay.
Please continue.
All the interruptions are not going to help the situation. You'll have to face the reality and the truth the way it is. I was born in that land. It's my birthright. And I was born, sit down, and I was born as an Arab. I was not born as Palestinian, like millions of Arab children. And the Palestinians have been pushing the Palestinian violent indoctrination based on false narrative of apartheid, colonialism, genocide, occupation. While Palestine never existed as a sovereign country, it never existed except as a colonial entity. And the joke on the Palestinians that they actually claim to be indigenous of the land, fighting against colonialism, while they choose a colonial entity as their national identity. How pathetic is that? I find it really unbelievable that the Palestinians continue spreading this lie and millions of people around the world are believing them. If you ask them what is Palestine, sit down. If you ask them what is Palestine, they don't know how to answer. If you ask them what makes a Palestinian Palestinian, they don't know how to answer. Stop interrupting me.
So they lack a national identity.
Wow.
They just lack a national identity.
Yeah.
And they can't let this dude talk. Like, they have to put their foot in. They're trying to put their foot in his mouth, and he's
Of course they are. They have to.
rightly getting angry.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know about you, but when I'm in a situation like that, when I put on my nice tuxedo, and someone has asked me to put my voice out there, and I've been there. You know, I've had things to say in places where people didn't want to hear what I had to say. I'm rather eloquent. I'm not patting myself on the back. I've got a busted shoulder, but like, there are situations I've been in where the whole process gets derailed because somebody has hurt feelings. And I'm like, this is what purports with reality. This is actually the situation on the ground where you are, and to not pay attention to it is at best unethical, right? And at worst attempting specifically to cause harm, right? And that
Do you think they're Do you think they're upset with him because he's telling them the truth and they just can't accept it?
Well, I think it's more than
Do you
that.
think that's where?
I think it's
Yeah.
cognitive dissonance, right? They believe a
Mm.
thing, and when you believe something other than what they believe, then you are
Yeah.
evil. This isn't
Yes.
removal of agency, which is fundamentally an evil. This isn't senseless acts that cause distress for no reason. This is someone saying, my feelings are hurt so bad because your worldview isn't mine. I perceive you as evil. And then once I perceive you as
Yes.
evil, then whatever act I take to stop the evil from my perspective is an acceptable act, right?
Mm.
On a minor, it's a minor scale thing, but literally shutting down someone else's voice in a G7 country isn't something that should be allowed, right? In the marketplace of ideas, it should fight and die based on its merit. That's what it should be. But they're trying to kill
Well,
the
that's
concept.
what I'm. Yeah, that is the concept. But here he's been silenced. It, as they say at the start when he asked that question, and
5%
so few of them, put up their hands.
And we're just
that should be that should be a trigger to show you what type of audience you're going to be dealing with.
Right. Well,
they do not want to accept the truth.
No,
we can't turn around. It's very hard for a person to turn around and say, "Oh, by the way, your national identity doesn't really exist." It's going to be very hard for them to actually understand.
But these
concept.
Right, but these are mostly English. Like, Ireland's had a couple of problems.
Yeah.
You know the English. You get them.
Yes, we've had a few. Yeah, a lot of problems.
Didn't
yes.
you guys have a bit of a tussle a couple decades back? Bit of a.
But also, the Irish Republican Army did terrorist attacks in England.
Oh yeah. They did.
They also did terrorist attacks in Northern Ireland. And people did report when they saw a package being left unattended. They did put their hands up.
Yeah.
And report at that time. But now that the fact that they're turning around and saying in England that they wouldn't report if they knew an attack was going to happen. Wow, is this shocking, especially from England with our shared history of the Troubles and everything else, that the fact that they wouldn't report.
Their moral and ethical compass is compromised. Absolutely compromised.
Yeah.
They've been fed, and I think a lot of it has to do with the education system. They're not being taught how to think. They're being taught what to think.
Well, in fairness now to the English education system, because it's very similar to us Irish system. It's in secondary school, especially, you're just taught the facts of something. That's it. You're not. When I was in school, and a lot of this generation, or just judging by the audience, went to school roughly around the same time as I did.
Right.
We were taught maths, English, history, very big,
social studies,
everything you need.
Right.
Yeah. No, social study wasn't a big thing.
That time when I was in school, when I was a kid, but a lot of that had to do with like Native American interactions with settlers, right? And we were not good. We were not good at all. And I'm not saying we were good, but they were also warlike as well, right? And even as we're going west across the United States, there were interscene warfare between the tribes, right? And they had a massive.
But you also have to look at the flip side, where you look at the history of the Trail of Tears and so on, when the Americans were dealing with the Native Americans.
Not angels. The United States were not angels at all. And we've had our struggles and our issues and our problems.
Yeah. So as they say, there's always two sides to every conflict.
Of course.
There's always two sides.
But at the end of the day, there isn't a group of people in history that are, in quotes, clean, that have never done a bad thing. There just isn't.
Yeah.
Right? It's part of statesmanship. When you attempt to exert your will on someone, right, and you remove their agency, you've done a thing that isn't nice. Right? It could even be characterized as evil.
But anytime a nation is being born, all through history, anytime a nation is being formed and born, there's always going to be bloodshed on both sides.
Oh, always.
A nation doesn't suddenly rise up peacefully. There's always going to be bloodshed.
Yeah.
There's always going to be.
And that's the reality.
Conflict.
And I don't think these folks want to hear about reality or truth. And you're right.
No.
He is speaking a truth. And it is not just his truth, it is truth. The things he is saying are true, verifiable things, right? And if somebody doesn't want to hear a true, viable fact about the world, if they just want to boo-hoo it and say, I don't care, right, and just dispense with reality, then you end up like these kids in this room with a ton of cognitive dissonance. They can't take those concepts in. It violates their worldview, which they have been taught is the right thing. And if somebody acts against your rightness, they are wrong.
They're not being taught this worldview in the British education system. They're being taught this worldview through the internet, through online lectures, and so on.
The algorithms got them. The algorithms got them, I guess.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Let's get on.
So you can't blame in fairness to the British education system, it's not to blame this time.
Right. Well, the United States education system has been hijacked, and it's been hijacked since '92.
Yes. And
if you watch New Discourses,
yeah,
have you seen New Discourses?
Yeah, I've said, as I said, I was telling you before, I've dealt with when I was in college, I had American students. Usually they transfer over in third and fourth year into our programs.
Oh, and they're nowhere near the level they should be to complete it on merit, are they?
No. Oh my God. No, don't get me wrong. Really nice kids, really nice, and God love them. They do try their best to catch up, but even down to the level of accounting, as one of our management accounting was one of our subjects, and a couple of the kids are in there, and they were lovely kids. As I said, I tried to help them, but they just didn't have even the basic. They had the basic mathematical skills down, but not the advanced mathematical skills to deal with complex problems. It's
like calculus,
and these
like
are kids
equations,
now,
or is this just basic function?
And by the way, one of these kids had already done 4 years of university in the United States.
Oh wow!
I was kind of going.
How do you not know?
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
And they said, you're doing the same course as I'm doing in the United States, and you don't. Oh, I did this last year in such and such a university, but it is way different. I said, accounting is accounting.
It's not way
How is it different? I'm looking at this year. I'm fair as I said, I like these kids. They were really nice kids, but I was kind of, how is it different? Accounting is accounting. No, since always.
Yeah, it's pretty much double entry.
There's a credit, there's a debit. I understand that management accounting is slightly different, where you have debit or credit, and you have to understand a more advanced part of accounting, but not that much more advanced.
Well, right, but I mean that includes what depreciation on assets and logistics trains, and
management accounting goes a bit more into in depth of how many widgets you need to order from a factory and time, and there's a lot of other concepts. But is the fact that this young person had already done it, even when the university is over, but now they couldn't do it here. I was
oh my God, that's crazy. Let's get back to Yousef. I don't want to.
Yes. Oh yes. Yes. We're getting completely off track here. Yeah.
We tend to go off into the weeds. I know.
Sit down. we heard you. We heard you. Sit down. Stop interrupt me and listen. Now, their strategy, and this is what need to be discussed here on the floor tonight, is the use of human shield and the evil practice of sacrificing children for political and financial gain. This is the mastery of the Palestinians. This is what they've been doing. They want the children, the Arab children, to continue carrying the burden of their sick indoctrination for eternity. Then a bunch of people come here crying as victims or as the saviors of the Gaza children. And I tell them, who authorized you even to speak on behalf of the children of Gaza? If you want to dismantle the apartheid state, he wants to dismantle the apartheid state, and none of you paid attention of how dangerous that. This means he wants to dismantle the state of Israel. This is what he wants to do. And that means...
So they're from the river to the sea, the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, that chant, it's a chant for genocide, like literally destroy the Jewish state, right? Because they're saying that
came from the chant during the 6 Day War.
Yeah.
That's where it actually came from.
100%, right. So, but that is a call to genocide of the Jewish people. They've already experienced that. I don't think we should have a round 2 of that. I don't think that's acceptable in any way.
But what people don't understand is Israel's motto is never again.
Yeah, 100%. I got to agree with that. That's the moral and ethical right answer there. And if you think otherwise, there's a problem. No. There's a big problem.
No.
Right. But he was talking.
What is going to be the solution in the future is what is eventually going to happen. There's eventually going to be a ceasefire. We all know that eventually.
Right.
There's going to be a ceasefire. Now, will the Gaza Strip be the same that it was before or after ceasefire? Probably not. I would say that Israel will expand into the Gaza Strip. They will put a red line there. Will they take all the Gaza Strip? No, but there's definitely going to take a big chunk of it.
Well, when they handed it
and that
over,
is going to be the ceasefire.
So there was an entity in 2005.
But the danger is, unfortunately, is will Israel have a ceasefire? Because we have to remember the lessons of history. When a nation is physically attacked like this, it's very hard to rein them back in. I think the Palestinians really underestimated the response of Israel. They knew Israel would respond. But
it's not as if their military capabilities were unknown.
Yes. I think but unfortunately for the Palestinians, I think they really, really miscalculated this time.
Right, but the Israelis are the most effective warfighters, not just in the Middle East, functionally in the world. There isn't a better military force.
As they say, no matter how careful a military is, or how well trained they are, there is going to be casualties.
Of course.
And I think the Palestinians have to understand that they picked a fight, and they thought it was going to be Israel will come in, they'll shoot up the place, and then they'll go away like before. I don't think they understand that Israel is not going to stop this time.
No, they're not going to be reined in. In fact, Netanyahu and a bunch of the conservative side of the Israeli leadership was like, I don't care what the rest of the world says. We're done. And we took it for 2 decades where we were nice and went in and cleaned it up and then gave them food and water and energy and, made sure they had all the assets they could to live. But at this point, we're done. We cannot accept attack on our soil anymore. We just can't. It is unacceptable for them to do this, to start a war, and then they're going to cry wolf and say, stop beating us up. You took the first shot, and now you're eating it. And sucks. It turned into a shit sandwich, and now it's all in your face. Sucks for you, but you shouldn't.
Yes, but
I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional.
We also have to remember, after this war, no matter what way it ends, there's going to be a lot more bloodshed, unfortunately, before this war ends. A lot of innocent civilians. On both sides, by the way.
Right, but I think this is like a quarterfinal match. This is like the quarterfinals, and we don't even know who's in the other fucking bracket right now. Who's coming up,
Yeah.
So, but once Syria lost all their anti-aircraft stuff, because they had a huge mass of anti-aircraft that Israel couldn't get through, when that was knocked down and destroyed, now they have free access to fly up into Iran and do the wild shit they've been doing up there. You don't get to have all these things, Iran. So anyway, there's also the Carnegie Island problem and a lot of other stuff. And then
there is, but as I say, at the end of the day, when it comes to the Gaza Strip, whatever is going to happen here is going to be, is it classified as genocide? When I hear the word genocide, I think of Rwanda. I think of other genocides across all across the world.
Yeah.
As I say, unfortunately, we're all both old enough to remember a lot of genocides, which is unfortunate. Damnation of
it hurts
humanity.
My heart,
a lot of
man.
Ways.
Africa's had a bunch of it. A bunch of it. Yeah.
I'm also thinking of the Luxalian Civil War that time, and I think when Israel has to tread very carefully here. I understand that their blood is up.
Oh, yeah.
But if they keep pushing the way they're pushing, no matter how righteous your cause might be, you're in danger of turning the entire world against you, rightly or wrongly. And we all understand that Hamas started this attack, and we all understand what happened. And we understand the history around Palestinians. But once you start going, no matter how careful you are trying to clear out civilian areas, you're going to make massive mistakes.
Right, but if Hamas would allow the civilians to exit the area and not use them as shields.
But the unfortunate thing is, none of the other Arab states around them want to take on the refugees. That is the saddest part about it as well. Like, you have all these Arab nations backing Hamas for decades, cheering them on. But now that coin is flipped and Hamas are losing, let's not sugarcoat that they are going to eventually lose.
Oh, they cannot go another way.
These same Arab nations are turning around and saying, we're not taking Palestinian refugees now. Is very disingenuous on their part as well.
Yeah, I guess they're not. My father taught me when I was a young man. He said you have very few things in the world, but one of them is your word. Your word is your bond. Your word is your bond. You're only as good as your word. Your worth in society is that one thing. Is your word your bond? If it is not, then another man won't go 2 feet with you to make a deal with you to make anything happen. If you can't be trusted, you can't be trusted. And these countries have shown they absolutely can't be trusted, right? And then they've promised their people that they're going to do bad things to good people. And then when they can't do those bad things, then they have to make excuses. So they're lying, they're disingenuous, and they're failing their constituency. They're failing their people in every way that it is possible to fail their people. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get back to Mr. Yousef, because we got in the weeds again. We're good at it.
Means the ethnic cleansing of the only Jewish state. Don't interrupt me and listen. What he wants to wipe out a nation, the most ancient nation in the Middle East, the most authentic nation in the Middle East, the only Jewish state on the planet. And he wants from the children of Gaza to do the job on his behalf, on behalf of his political ambition. And I tell him, why don't you go carry a rifle and fight the apartheid state? Why the children of Gaza supposed to fight on your behalf and on behalf of your righteousness? You are not the savior. This is a very severe state of mental illness that you.
The problem that his father has is that he's righteous and wrong. He's right. You cannot be righteous and wrong. You cannot be righteous in your wrongness. You can't.
Okay.
Right? And he's right. He is putting children out there to die for his political ambition. And that is disgusting. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Think that you are the savior of Gazan children, because you are not the savior. And all. Now, they talk about genocide. Israel sent leaflets, millions of text messages. They've made phone calls. They gave safe passages to people to evacuate war zone. While Hamas embedded under schools, hospitals, they did not leave any sacred zone for the civilians to evacuate to safety. Then,
think your taxes are simple? You could file for free with H&R Block. More people qualify for H&R Block free on.
They booby-trapped the entire area. And Israel had to send its foot soldiers to suffer additional casualty on the top of October 7, while they had the capacity to carpet bomb the entire Gaza Strip. If their intention if their intention, you never been to Gaza, you don't know what you're talking about, so sit down. After the war? After the war? What was the day? Where did you go? After the war? After October 7?
Order. Can the speaker desist from addressing other members? Okay. Order. Can the speaker please be heard? Could I please ask the member of the Hall to desist? Please conclude your speech.
Israel did, for those who are here to listen, by the way, it's very,
He's actually making a really good point there. He's pointing around there.
Right. So
He
the
said none of them,
Hamas disallowed people to leave. Go ahead.
Yeah, but not one person in that room has been to Gaza. Well, a few have, but the vast majority of the young people there have never been to the Gaza Strip. They
I've
don't
been
know
to
what they're
Israel
talking about.
and I've seen it, but I never went in.
Yes.
So we drove around some of the kibbutzes out there. I was forever ago. Oh my God, like the 90s, man. And yeah, so like, oh, that's Gaza. Cool. Let's go over and check this thing out over here in the kibbutz. And
Exactly.
we left. Went back up to Tel Aviv and then bootsied on out and went back to where I was doing stuff. So, but yeah, but I didn't have any desire to go there. At that young age, I didn't understand what was going on. I had no idea about the world in the 1990s. You kidding me? No clue.
Yeah.
It was complex, and I wasn't worried about it. I was a young fella. There was different beers to drink in different countries. That was my whole thing. Let's go try all these beers in all these different countries, because you don't have to be 21 to drink, and I'm going to go try beers. Oh, so, but he's right. So Hamas doesn't allow them safe passage out. They booby-trap the area, and he's right. Israel could have just carpet bombed the whole thing and flattened it and killed everybody in there, but they didn't. They sent in foot soldiers who sustained more casualties to attempt to remove the booby traps to give the civilians egress to get out of the space, and then they took fire from Hamas in the process. So a lot of IDF soldiers have died in that process of attempting to save Palestinians in Gaza. It is inequitable at best.
Important, and I will remind you at some point in the future, when we look back at this time of confusion and the push of the Palestinian violent indoctrination, they are going to hit a dead end eventually. But here, let me be a witness to history and to you. Israel did everything within their ability to minimize the civilian casualty in Gaza. While Hamas did everything in their ability to maximize the civilian casualty.
The speaker will be heard.
Hamas did everything within their ability to maximize the civilian casualty for political and financial gain, for global sympathy, and they succeeded of fooling so many people. But this is not going to change the reality on the ground, because Hamas does not care for the Arab children. Hamas does not care for the Jewish children. Arabs and Jews, yes, your insults can challenge or defy my truth. Arabs and Jews can get along. I have faith in that. Arabs, we are an ethnic group. We were way before Islam came to the region. We were way before the Palestinians came to the region. And by the way, the Palestinian history started in 1964 with the keffiyeh and the Palestinian flag. This is their heritage. That's all they have. And we are not Palestinians. We are Arabs. This is our language. This is our culture. And we will continue way after the Palestinian thugs who came to hijack our society with their sick indoctrination and victim narrative. The victim narrative. This is not represent.
That is so crucial.
Well, yeah.
Crucial, the victim narrative. I punched you in the face, but you made me do it. Or I punched you in the face and you can't hit me back because I'm a victim. Right? That is, the crux of it.
And you see that quite a lot, actually. You see that quite a lot, actually. Especially especially in Western culture, I don't think they're used to people punching back.
Well,
for whatever reason.
Hopefully we can.
Maybe they should go to more. Maybe they should go more to more pubs after a Saturday night and see what happens.
Yeah. So here's a funny one. So I remember when I was a kid, go down to the park, right? And you would play football, hang out with your buddies, whatever. But you would say something super individualistic, like, "I think this," and then some other kid would just slap you in the face, pop. And the next day you went out there, you were a little less individualistic. You were a little more, I think I'll listen to what other people are saying. And then you're like, okay, here's my chance. I'm going to put my foot down and say something individualistic. I'm going to say a thing. Whap! You get popped in the face again. Right?
Yeah.
And then over time,
I do.
Go ahead.
But I do understand where it's very hard. It's very hard for Palestinians to hear this. I can understand why it's very hard for them to hear this.
Right. For a state that started in 1964 that made their flag and it exists because of a kafir.
I understand.
Against a society that's over 3,000 years old, you're going to say you're the victim?
Yeah.
They're Arabs.
I think it's and it's
before they're anything
but
else.
as I've always said, a lot of these conflicts in the Middle East, especially, are going back centuries.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I think us in the West have to understand that this is a very brutal part of the world.
No,
nice things don't happen in this part of the world, but a lot of their history. What we're witnessing is only a snapshot of a brutal war that's going on at the moment. And when war happens, brutal things happen on both sides.
Oh, they do, for sure.
We can all understand that.
For sure.
I think the unfortunate part of this war is we all understand that the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are going to lose it. They're going to lose this war.
Right, but it's not the Palestinians that are losing, it's the Hamas that are forcing them to use their children as meat shields.
I understand that.
Right.
But unfortunately, what's going to happen in the next stage is going to be very, very telling. Not just for this generation, but for more future generations.
Right.
What will happen after the end of this war?
Can we be mature?
What will happen after
as a planet?
I don't see it happening. I don't see it. So I don't see people being very mature about this. Like, will Israel allow the Gaza Strip to exist after this war? I've always said very unlikely.
Well, it's like a wound.
They won't take it all.
A wound that is open that, if not tended to, will destroy the Jewish state.
But I do see Israel taking part of the Gaza Strip, not all the Gaza Strip. Are they capable of taking all the Gaza Strip? Yes. Are they going to, after a ceasefire, keep it? No. But unfortunately, like every other conflict, it's always the innocent civilians who will suffer.
Yep.
What do you do with if these Western kids and adults, by the way, in this room, with the courage of their convictions, they will come up with a plan for after the end of this conflict. As we all know how this is going to end.
Well, it's Oxford. There's a bunch of smart kids. Maybe they should be doing smart kid shit and figure it out.
As he said to that gentleman, if you have the courage or convictions, pick up a gun or pick up an aid packet and go over to Gaza and help.
Yeah. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yes. And come up with solutions. It's very easy to wave a flag and chant whatever you want to chant, but it's very hard to come up with solutions.
Right, but that should be used as an opening to start a conversation. It shouldn't be the end of the conversation. Right? All right, let's let him close out because we do have to get to Ms. Hausdorff.
Yep.
Resilient, we don't accept to be victims. Israel will be our strategic friend, and we will get along. Kurds, Jews, Arabs, Druze, and the rest of the region. And I hope that the Palestinians will know their place in history, nothing but a false identity. This is who they are, and this is how they are going to end.
Order, 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 order.
Very, very well done. Very, very well done.
I am absolutely impressed.
Yes.
And so Patrick and I.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
very, as I was saying, a very impressive young man. Been over multiple different platforms over the years. Really impressive young
He
man.
doesn't change his tune.
Really tough
He's
young man.
solid. He's tough.
No.
Very
Yeah.
tough. So Patrick and I generally watch some Oxford Union stuff. It's a really good channel. Check it out. Like Patrick said, they tend to bring up both sides of the issue. On this one, though, there seems to be a bit of sliding with the cast as opposed to who's going to speak when. It appears that some of them don't want to have their ideas directly confronted in a debate format. They just want to make their statements and walk without any.
That's normal. That sometimes, especially for a debate like this, that's the format they normally do use.
Right. Well, because it's super contentious. Super contentious, and you sometimes can't contain all that emotion in one space. So, all right, let's switch over to Ms. Hausdorff, and we're probably going to have a lot to say here. Here we go.
And on that note, we might start wrapping up today's episode. This is checking our time there.
Oh,
yeah, we already hit that.
Oh, we hit the
Yeah, we've already hit that time.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to do
we already hit that
with
time.
Ms. Hausdorff.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
We picked a fiery fellow for the first go, so that
yes, we did.
You're gonna get more of Alex and Patrick. Woohoo! Anyway, so hey, thank you very much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, do the all thing. Doesn't cost you anything, but just a couple of seconds of your time, and we greatly appreciate it. And as soon as we get some things set up, we'll get membership and merch and all that good stuff. And it has been an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
Take us on out of here, Patrick.
Yeah, good luck and thank you very much.